gentlemen, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Demon. This is the award-winning Fan Show. Good day to you all. Happy Wednesday, Fan Nation. It is another Wednesday here in the world of Fan. And of course, with Wednesday comes another one of our specials. But sadly, all great things must come to an end, at least for now. And tonight is that night as we wrap up and give a very fond farewell, as only we can here on the Fan Show, to our weekly Battlebots segment, because a new champion has been crowned, as we mentioned, going into the tournament. The reigning, defending, undisputed champion, Ray Billings of Tombstone, was there. Would he repeat? Would he not? Would he get to the finals only to have someone new knock him off the top of the mountain? That was very much not the case, as he was upset in round one by an old rival in Mike Jeffries of Bombshell. We talked to Mike Jeffries, who announced his retirement, and we were off to the races. A 16-seed tournament was underway. We were guaranteed a new champion. Maybe someone who has won before would win again, but as far as a repeat champion, we would not have that. 2018, so you had a few seasoned vets. You had Don Hudson of Lockjaw. You had Paul Ventimiglia of Bite Force. Don Hudson has more giant nuts than there have been seasons of Battlebots. Paul Ventimiglia, he was the one that won it before Ray Billings in Tombstone. So would he get back to the top of the mountain? Would we have a new champion in the form of an up-and-comer, a young gunslinger like Matty Vasquez and Team Whiplash? Or would it be a vet who's chased and their 15-year odyssey be culminated with their first championship win for guys like Minotaur? Marco of Minotaur, such a great personality. It was so much fun to watch him in there. So 16 enter. Only one would be crowned champion. 16 enter and one leaves. I mean, really, if you watched these last three episodes, it really was Thunderdome. Ice Wave, I had Mark DeWitz on last week, and that was a lot of fun because his bot got torn to shreds. Pieces of Ice Wave strewn all across the battle box as Rotator took it to him. And it was just such a fun competition, a tournament to watch. The whole season has been amazing. It was amazing. So for right now, we are going to put a nice big bow around it and send it off in the only way that we know how, which is to talk to some of the biggest names in the sport. So for our finale tonight, I am joined by none other than the co-creator of BattleBots, Greg Munson. Had him on the show before the season started, so now we will get to hear his reaction to everything that unfolded throughout Season 3, the new fight card format, the partnership with Discovery being on them and the Science Channel, and a look to the future. We want Season 4 as the hashtag that you need to use because there are no guarantees in life. This Season 3 came in 2018, where Season 2 was 2016, so there was a little bit of a gap there, and we don't want that anymore. We want to make sure that we can expect robot fighting time, same time, every year, and that familiar faces like Farouk, Kenny, and Chris are going to be there to take us into the battle box for the most epic robot fight in the world. Now, also, what would a finale be than to have the champion and new world champion of BattleBots. He will be joining me as well, and very excited to have him. He'll be actually on first. I pre-recorded my interview with Greg because he's a very busy man, so we will have that towards the bottom of the hour. But yeah, this episode, this one, bittersweet, as the finale was aired Friday. The re-airing on the Science Channel will happen tonight. And that'll be it. Of course, we will have news for you as it unfolds, as it's reported. I'm good friends with the guys, that are in the know. So hopefully when they know, I know, and in turn, you will know as far as what to expect for the future. And then, of course, in between segments, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add another name to the list, and then we're going to also have a Week 5 ButtFumble Award winner. There was no vote today because it was pretty unanimous when I put it out there. I was like, do we got nominees? Because I figured there would be for Week 5, and yes, we do have a winner, one of few undisputed winners that we don't even need a vote for. And, you know, some of you might hear this and be like, really? He's a ButtFumble Award winner? No one is immune to there is no immunity to the ButtFumble Award winner, okay? You are not untouchable. Tom Brady has won the ButtFumble Award by your vote, by the fans' vote, might I add. And so it doesn't matter how great you are or how not great you are. If you have a ButtFumble-worthy moment or series of moments in a week, in a game, you could be that week's winner. And that's the case that we have this week. The guy that won, semi-spoiler, I guess. The guy that won this week, he has otherwise been great. He just had a bad week. The name on the list, though, was, in my eyes, the runner-up for the ButtFumble Award winner. So we will go over both of those in between the two segments. But first and foremost, Paul Ventimiglia of Bite Force will be joining me as he is the new Battlebots World Champion, and man, what a run he had in that tournament. I mean, it was like all gas, no break from the start. Whiplash, Matty Vasquez, hat off to him, really, tip of the cap, because he went after him, and that fight, it was, you know, there was no quit in these guys, but Paul, he's really mastered what an almost unbeatable bot is. A lot of people thought that about Tombstone, but I would say that if these two met in the championship, that it might be Bite Force to take down Tombstone. It was Bite Force and Minotaur, however, so we have one looking to regain some former glory, add another giant nut to their collection, and one who spent 15 years chasing it down, an entire country on his shoulder. I will admit I was cheering for Minotaur just a little bit, and then it didn't happen. It was tragic. I try to be as unbiased as I can, but I'm a sucker for a never have I ever. But that's okay. It's all right. That happens, and we move on. They were great sports about it, and so with that, then we will talk with Paul, and we will get his thoughts on another win, and we will also get his thoughts on the future of BattleBots and what it means to be a champion. So with that, we are going to go to commercial break. There's not really anything in the headlines today. The headlines, I mean, if you want to hear it. As always, brought to you by Dynamite Enterprises. And of course, the headlines are that we have a new BattleBots champion. That is Paul Ventimiglia of Bite Force. And we are going to go ahead and talk to them. Not too much happening in the world of football, but we will have a full Week 6 preview tomorrow, as well as a new fan versus fan show pick'em. And that'll be a lot of fun also. So don't go anywhere. We've got more of the fan show coming up right after this. You're listening to The Fan Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's The Fan Show.
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazzisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It's like that scene in The Simpsons, like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo.
Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again.
So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body, right?
Yeah.
And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
Listen live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night on Spreaker.com or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and for the last time on the Fan Show, it is robot fighting time, and who better to help close us out than the new champion of the robot fighting world, Paul Ventimiglia of Bite Force. How you feeling, Paul?
Thanks, Richard. It feels good to be back on the show and good to be back in the winner's circle.
I was going to say, there was a lot of really heavy hitters and tough contenders in that 16, which that was probably the point, the hope by the producers and the powers that be with Battlebots. But, I mean, you look around the landscape and you had reigning champion Ray Billings of Tombstone. You had the up-and-comers like Maddie Vasquez with Whiplash. Ice Wave, who looked almost unbeatable going into that tournament. Bronco, who's always troublesome. Minotaur, who seemed to be a man on a mission. And then you, which, when it was all said and done, I mentioned this earlier in the show, it looked like you had an almost unbeatable bot, short of there being some sort of, short circuit or a blown fuse or just something technical happening. Is that how you feel about the bot that you've designed?
No, not at all. I think every robot is very beatable, whether to itself or by others. There's tons of trade-offs. And so, like you were saying, the top 16, every one of those robots was really well selected, in my opinion. One or two may be different, but for the most part, I think it was really solid, good picks by the producers. And each robot was sort of very devastatingly powerful. But for Bite Force, for example, we take a trade-off where we put all the sort of armor, offense, and defense in the front of the robot. So there's sort of three sides of the robot that are very susceptible to being damaged quite easily. We make trade-offs like having the back wheels exposed so that we can not get stuck so easily, but of course that's very susceptible to being ripped off by a spinner.
Yeah, and I will agree with you there. I think, the perfect bot is something that is unobtainable, undesignable, but you guys certainly came very close. The Final Four was fantastic, but I don't know if anybody really had a more difficult journey to the winner's circle than you did, because you look around at the landscape and, since Tombstone got upset and sent home early, Maddie Vasquez in Whiplash was driving out of his mind the way that they defeated Bronco was I think a huge surprise to a lot of people. Minotaur you knew was going to be in the mix in some way. And then for you to go through Huge, who was a fan favorite, very popular, and then Rotator, who just came off probably his best fight of the whole season against Ice Wave. Then you had to go against Whiplash and then against Minotaur. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's almost as if your giant nut is probably one of the hardest earned championships that I've seen in this sport.
Yeah, it's pretty different now in this modern reboot where there's sort of 8 total fights to face. Back in the day, in the early 2000s, the robots that were sort of pre-seeded for the TV rounds only had to win sort of 4 or 5 matches at most to win the championship. And in general, like in 2015, we had 5 wins. That's a field of 24 robots. And in 2009, it was also 5 wins. And in this case, you only really need 4 to win, right? You need to get into the final 16. And probably, ourselves and Tombstone could have had, several losses in the preliminary matches and still been selected based on, previous lineage. And so the real thing is that it's a lot all at once when you look back at 8, but each one is just one more fight. And so we have a really good pit crew, and my teammates are all really experienced from both combat robotics and first robotics, where I was adding this up the other day, and there's literally thousands of match wins amongst myself and Rob and Travis and Corey especially, who have been doing robot combat for so long, and Tina and JJ have been doing it for the last 3 years or so. And so preparing after a fight, we make the robot better every single match. And so even though there's parts of it that are getting weaker and failing, we're reinforcing those parts so that sort of each match we're facing, the robot is definitely better than it was before and not worse.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think that constant room for improvement is definitely the right mindset. And looking at this tournament, looking back at the last episode, I think that one of my favorite fights had to been between you and Whiplash, just because Matty Vasquez was the young up and comer, and he drove just out of his mind. I mean, your guys' fight, there was just no quit, no back down in him. Is this the kind of sport that acknowledges that kind of attitude? The way that you drive, the way that you fight can earn as well as lose respect amongst your peers and competitors?
Oh, for sure. And, they may be age-wise young, of course, but they're more experienced than many of the older folk out there. And that's not to take anything away from them. It's to add to their, portfolio is how many years of experience they have and how many they've built tons of little robots and big robots. And that's another thing that's pretty important that some builders miss out on is, number one, just number of fights is huge to have experience with. And that's a good thing that smaller robots like 10, 15-pounders and 3-pounders and 1-pounders are good for, just having a huge number of fights under your belt. And then secondly, of course, is driving a big robot is pretty different. And having those guys compete at robo games is a huge help too, especially they're the kind of team that repairs things in the off seasons and makes lots of little detail modifications that you wouldn't notice a difference on the outside. And so that match was a really good one. The last the Whiplash against Rotator, those were both really, really fun matches that I've rewatched actually several times now. And in the Whiplash case, I think the hardest thing was trying to actually go for the knockout because we want the fight to be over as soon as possible in all cases because just in general, more seconds and minutes of a match is more time for something small to just randomly go wrong. Yeah. And then secondly is things like a weapon motor can easily burn out, which ended up happening against Minotaur after 5 matches finally. And so that's sort of going to happen at some point in time. And if you can't determine when, then you want to get rid of it. And in that case, once we got those wheels off, we sort of figured we would let the judges and them see if they were, moving around. I know there was some slight controversy on, the knockout aspect of there, but it's sort of not in our hands. We don't do anything to obviously influence that. And we will gladly keep, hitting people as needed, but that was really, really a good match because our robots are pretty evenly sort of set up in terms of we drive at each other. We got the spinning weapon in the front, all of our offense and defense both in the front.
Yeah, I think for you guys, it was so much fun to watch you go through just because of how tough the road was to the championship. You're also a very exciting bot to watch in the battle box despite whoever your opponent may be, and so all those elements added in made for a really fun run for you guys, and then of course a tournament and then a Final Four and a championship. Now we got to see on the episode you hoisting the giant nut, but I'm curious though, because this is pre-taped and they want to do everything they can not to spoil it, is that something that they ship to you after the last episode, or how do you hide that from the neighbors when you're walking into your house?
Oh, so the actual trophy? Yeah, so we actually have a lot of robot builder friends, as you can imagine. We've been watching a lot of the episodes with James from Yeti, for example, was like 5 minutes away from us. And so in our case, it's doubly weird because we have the old giant nut, which a passerby could see and think we just won, or take a photo of and make it look that way. So what I basically did was I have the old giant nut sort of on the ground level because we live in California with earthquakes. At the ground level of this little sort of trophy shelf thing in my office/Lego room. And the new nut, the 2018 one, the moment we get it home, and actually in the car too, I just seal it up, and it literally was not, it sat underneath our dining room table, covered in a box, and it sat there for, months, obviously 4, 5, 6 months. And one of my sponsors, WPI, my university, I knew they would. They love having us visit and talk to students and talk with them about Battlebots and engineering. And so we thought that'd be a great spot to do a sort of finale viewing party. And so in secret, of course, because they're used to keeping secrets, that kind of thing. We shipped both the nuts and the robot down there in a crate, and then kept it under wraps until right after the episode finished airing, and sort of pulled the cloth off of it. But I'm sure in that last hour or two, a few students could sort of guess what's going on when our whole team is there and visiting and stuff. But you never know. So one of these years when I'm doing a final finale viewing party, it may not be the result people expect.
I was going to say, I saw that you and Leanne and several others were at a viewing party.
Yeah, we had a huge team there,
Yeah.
Valkyrie, Sawblade. Yeah, they're all pretty local to WPI, so that was really cool and great of them to come out.
What was the reaction like when you guys won and being there at the viewing party?
At the viewing party is really cool because you have like 300 students cheering you on, and that's pretty rare and unusual. Even at Battlebots, there's probably not that many people left at the end of the night on that sort of Sunday night or whatever it finished up because, once teams are eliminated, you're spending a lot of your time packing up your pit, and a lot of people, because of the 2-week aspect, once you knew you were out, made preparations to even go home a little earlier because of their jobs and their families and their significant others at home. And so for some reason, the end of an event always feels a little lackluster in terms of the crowd cheering aspect. So at WPI was just awesomely satisfying and special feeling, having everyone cheer for you. And it was one of the first times I actually watched it with the real live Discovery feed, because usually we watch it with Amazon Prime or with the sort of Discovery web login where the commercials are like all the same and they're a little bit delayed. So that was pretty cool. And we had the president of the university. She's really into robotics. She used to do the head some of the science for the NASA Mars rover, and so she's totally into robotics. And she sat next to us while we watched the finals. That was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm very glad to hear that you had a good time at the viewing. So my last question for you then, obvious one, are you going back if there's a season 4 to defend your crown, or is this one of those moments where it's like you did it not once but twice and maybe now you can try other things? Like what's the future hold for Bite Force?
Well, we've actually done it 3 times. And
three times
I keep bringing this up with Battlebots. So in 2009 when we won that event it was not technically a giant nut trophy. It was a red kill saw trophy. But we went to a filmed event, the same as everything else. We thought it was filmed for TV, just like everyone else did, and we won that one. But our team will always try to be back. It's hard for me to not be back. The only reason I would ever not be back is if there's some horrible conflicting contract issue, where they want to us to sell our soul to the devil, or agree to embarrass ourselves, or something like that. I mean, I could imagine, if there's some weird reality TV network that I could not want to do it. But otherwise, it's a pretty major priority in my life. I think the only question is sort of how much do we rebuild, or if it's a new robot or the same robot. And so we're in a pretty good position, actually, which I've never been in before, where we were building up a spare robot the entire event, and we got a few hours away from finishing that robot. It's sort of at the 95% level. And so now, coming out of this event, we have a brand new spare Bite Force and unused, and then we have the old beat-up one. So we're in a pretty good position to compete again and work on, our spare parts and all the details and things we learned. And then if they give us a lot of time, then we have the option for building something new or creative or another version of the same robot, anything like that.
Well, I gotta say, I'm very happy for you. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Bite Force was always entertaining in the battle box, but congratulations to you, and I really appreciate you taking the time after the big finale. It'll re-air tonight, but of course, those of us that are bot fans, and I speak for a lot of them, we already knew who the champion is before the Science Channel airing tonight. So,
well,
again,
thank you for keeping it secret.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a tough gig. I'm not gonna lie. That some of that video content I was so excited to put out there, and then I had to watch it really closely. I even sent some to Greg, and I was just like, "Is this okay?" He's like, "Well, not quite. Reddit would figure it out." And I was like, "Okay." So thank you so much again, Paul. Congratulations, and I hope to see you next season.
No problem. You got a good show, and I like listening to all the robot parts. I don't listen to all the sports parts, but I like all the robot parts. So do more of that stuff.
All right, we'll have plenty more in the future for you. You take care.
Thanks. Good night. Bye.
All right, once again, that was Paul Ventimiglia of Bite Force, your 2018 Battlebots World Champion. And if it's not broke, don't fix it, man. I mean, I love that these guys want to be innovative and they want to change it up and try something new. But when you have a bot like that, that's that dominant, it's just like Ray Billings and Tombstone or Marco and Minotaur. It's like, what are you going to do differently? Like, why mess with something that is you? And now Bombshell has changed it a lot, but they're a huge team, and they're all going to have input, and they're all going to want to try to change, what hasn't worked, and see if something new works. And that's them. Even Witch Doctor did like a complete overhaul, no pun intended. But yeah, it's such a great sport. I love it. I miss it already. I can't wait for it to be back for season 4. Hopefully there is one. Greg and I will talk about that. But before Greg, Munson, and myself discuss BattleBots Season 3, we have a new name to add to the list and a ButtFumble Award winner. So without further ado, the runner-up for the Week 5 ButtFumble Award, just because the other one was such a landslide, but this one definitely had to make you chuckle. In fact, Mark Istook, a friend of the F.A.N show, went on an epic Twitter rant about this individual. So, Sunday Night Football, you're in overtime. You have one of the most dominant running backs in the league behind one of the best lines in the National Football League. It's overtime, and you have 1 yard to gain in overtime, and it could mean the difference of the outcome of this game in overtime. I emphasize that because in overtime, 4th and a yard, this individual elected to punt the football. They lost that game. I don't know if you know that. So I'm sorry, Cowboys fans, that I'm not sorry, but Jason Garrett, you know what happens when it's overtime and the game is on the line and you could put it in the hands of one of the most trusted running backs in the league? In fact, there's a whole thing about feed Zeke because he is just that running back, and you say, I'm going to punt? Let's punt the ball away and let Houston try to win this thing. And they did. You know what happens, Jason Garrett, when you are just one of the most conservative coaches since Andy Reid? You know what happens?
You just made the list!
So congratulations, Jason Garrett. You've been added to the list of F.A.N show for that. I don't even think it's conservative at this point. I think it's blatant stupidity to punt again in overtime, over friggin' time, where there can be a tie. So maybe he was hoping, that they wouldn't lose, but they sure as hell weren't trying to win. So Jason Garrett is the newest addition to the list, which brings us to the ButtFumble Award. No nominees, just a winner by a landslide. So without further ado, this individual, like I said, they have otherwise been great in their NFL career, but that does not mean that you have immunity to one of the best and most prestigious awards in all of the sports world, the coveted ButtFumble Award. So this week's winner is none other than Mason Crosby, who missed not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 field goals in the Green Bay Packers' loss to division rival the Lions, who really can't seem to find their roar. But sure enough, they sent the Packers back to Lambeau with a 2-2-2 record, who will face the 1-4 49ers. And if it comes down to the kicking game, I gotta say, I trust ours a lot more than Mason Crosby. So that is your Week 5 ButtFumble Award winner. Against nothing against the man. We can all do dumb things. We can all have a ButtFumble moment. And so if you take that too personally, then this isn't the show for you. So without further ado or any more delay, let's welcome Greg Munson, co-creator of BattleBots, as we close out Season 3 of Robot Fighting Time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me now, and what better way to wrap up our 2018 coverage of BattleBots Season 3 than the man himself, one of the co-founders of Robot Fighting Time, Greg Munson. Greg, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Richard. Glad to be back.
I gotta say, I was really impressed with Season 3. Of course, there haven't been too many unrealistic bars set. We've talked all season long on the show about how Comedy Central people A lot of them remember those days, but it was so gimmicky that it didn't get the respect that we felt it fully deserved. And then ABC, kind of this new approach to it, but even then, some people said more like a reality show. Then I had you on before the season 3 started. I was down there for some of the tapings, talked to a lot of the folks about how they felt about the new partnership with Discovery. You were very excited about it, and then there we go. We're off to the races. We have a regular season, a few wild card matches thrown in there, and then finally a 16 seed tournament and a champion and a new champion now. So looking back at everything, like from a creator perspective, how do you feel this went, and was there anything that you would have changed?
I think it went amazingly awesome. Finally, this is the first season where we've actually really portrayed BattleBots as the true sport that it is.
Mm-hmm.
We had a regular season just like real sports has, and then we had a postseason playoff just like real sports have with the tournament. We had rankings, we had the stats all involved in who would get into the top 16. It felt like it was a real sports season, and I think that was awesome. So the whole fight card, taking that page from boxing, and just the way we tweaked the format to show more fights per hour. ABC only did 4 fights. With Discovery, we were able to do 5. And with Discovery Science, we were able to do 6 per hour, which was fantastic. And I think we finally hit a nice stride and a sweet spot with how the show is being portrayed, how it's being edited, how Chris and Kenny are interacting with the play-by-play and color.
Yeah,
match interviews. It's all great. It's just we're in all 4 cylinders. I think all 8 cylinders. Wait, I want a 12-cylinder car. It's a 12-cylinder car. We're firing on all 12 cylinders.
Yeah, I gotta say it was really impressive, and just to be able to talk to all the different builders throughout the season on the show that I did, and then of course have Kenny on, Farouk, of course, one of our favorite voices to come back on the show, and then the video content. Everything was great from my perspective, and just to hear people be so excited about it, especially the people that make it happen. For Kenny to speak so highly about Discovery and just his passion for the sport, and then of course you had all the different faces of the builders and the different teams, and they really, you could hear it in their voice. It was genuine, it was real, that they loved how this season played out, and they felt that the future was very bright for BattleBots, and Discovery was a great place to have it. Of course, them watching themselves on TV after the fact, they might have picked out a few things here or there, but obviously now that the season has concluded, I don't know how early you guys start talking about a next season. Assuming that you guys get one, whether or not, do you at least talk about any tweaks or adjustments or things that you'd like to implement or change for the next one, and do you have an idea of what that might be?
Well, so as a TV person now, we don't like to jinx whether there's going to be a next season or not, right? I'll just say that the ratings on Science Channel were phenomenal. They're really good. Ratings on Discovery were solid. I think all the network people were happy. So we'll just see. We'll see what happens, and we'll hope for the best. And if there is another season, fingers crossed, knock on wood, no jinx. Lace up my hockey skates the exact same way every time. So there, it does happen, right? I think we will definitely stick with the fight card format. We may add a little more element. One thing I still have always wanted, and Trey as well, and I think our other producers do as well, is more action in the pit.
Yes.
When Trey and I were on Comedy Central, and then that ended after 5 seasons, we would go off and pitch the show to every network under the sun, and we always would start saying, there's so much drama in the pit, there's so much action going on in the pit, we got to see that. And it actually has never really happened. Even in the ABC show, you didn't see much of it. In the new Discovery show, you do see some of it, but you don't really see, you miss a lot.
Yeah.
So I would encourage everyone who's listening to this to go to either the Discovery's website or the Science Channel website, or on their smartphone, go download the Discovery Go or the Science Go app, and go watch BattleBots Resurrected. which is a digital series that Discovery made behind the scenes. We consulted with them, kind of gave them the idea, like, guys, you should follow the drama that happens in the pit. Here are a couple of robots you should focus on. And it finally has come out. And it really shows how crazy and how much work and how much tenacity and resourcefulness it takes to not just build these robots, but fix them after they're completely wrecked and get it back in when your fight's in like 2 hours.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So everyone should go watch that. And I'm loving what that series is doing, and I think it would be cool to add a little bit of that into BattleBots next season. So we'll see. We will see.
Yeah, the pit area was a point of emphasis, a lot of the builders that I talked to, and I know that I threw around a few ideas of my own from a fan perspective. I wanted to know, you guys are definitely on a better network, and I would hope to God that you guys get the green light for Season 4, because, every time I would go on the Discovery Go app and flip through the shows that are on there to get the BattleBots, I'd be like, that's a show? Like, that they have this as a show? And just to think that you guys wouldn't, it'd be a travesty. But you're right, no jinx, not to get ahead of yourselves. But one idea that I had was, Kenny Florian and Farouk are kind of your guys' gateways out into the mainstream world. And to have the two guys like that, with that character and charisma, and to speak with confidence and passion about it the way that they do, I threw around the idea of, you guys having not only celebrity guest judges, which you do to a certain degree, but also special guest referees. It doesn't even have to be for like, important or like fights that matter, but just to get somebody in the action like that, whether they count down a knockout or not. I think, if you can find bot fans of a certain credibility and celebrity level, that would be an area to tap into.
It's an interesting idea. One thing that no one sees on the TV show is how much work and responsibility the referees have before and after the fight. In the show, you just see the fight, you know, but you don't see the fight, what happens before and what happens. The whole loading and unloading of the robots is actually one of the more dangerous times. So the bots have to be loaded, activated, and then set up to fight. And then once the fight's over, they got to be deactivated and unloaded. That we have perfected that over with however long it's been. We've been doing it since 1999, and the refs are a huge part of that, like making sure people don't accidentally hit their remotes, put the remote on the table, set it in this position, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Trey is working with John and Mike. They're in constant communication to make sure that everything is being done safely and quickly, so we can get the next robot back on. So if we had a celebrity ref, they would have to go through a pretty intensive training period to do it. Maybe we just have them, for the fight part, but not the pre and post thing, because that would be pretty difficult to train them so quickly.
Yeah, the magic of or movie magic, or I guess TV magic. You can spin it however you need to. It was just I didn't even realize how much went into that either. I know John, and he's very passionate about what he does when it comes to reffing, and he's always trying to think of like innovative ways that he can make the job. I don't know if it's more glamorous or what he's looking for there, but John he's an idea guy, and I love him to death. But he always gets so excited to ref, and I think that's an area that you guys could look into. But now that the season is concluded, we've crowned a new champion, Bite Force, and Paul Ventimiglia had such just an amazing run through there. And of course, the whole thing started off with the upset of Tombstone by the hands of Bombshell, and now Mike Jeffries announcing his retirement. I mean, the home stretch of this season had like a little bit of everything that you would expect from television. It had the drama from the Last Chance Rumble with Duck and Bombshell, the huge upset in the beginning, a young up-and-comer, Vasquez and Whiplash, and then, of course, the seasoned vets, who's going to either add to their collection or maybe get their first one ever. Do you think you could have written it up or scripted it any better than that?
No. I mean, and the thing is, we've been doing it since 1999, and it always happens. Every tournament has these moments and these fights that are just like, well, I mean, that is so crazy how that happened. And it just these things unfold during the tournament that is fantastic. Or there's a crazy judge's decision, or there's an amazing fight, or there's an amazing upset. it just year after year, it hasn't failed. There's been amazing things that happen. And this year was no different. In fact, this year is probably maybe one of the best where those things just happen. And it's great. And I hope we never have a season where it's just all boring and predictable. And it's like, oh, okay. Oh, you won again. All right. Oh, this guy just won again. You know, I hope we never get there. But robot combat is so, what am I trying to say? A robot can break anytime. Tombstone is the champ. Back then. Now by horses, of course. But Tombstone, everyone thinks he's always going to win. He's always going to win. He's always going to win, right? But little things can happen. If a little change just falls off, or someone doesn't plug in their remote all the way. These little things, these little gremlins can vex you, and they can change the outcome of matches. We got to remember these are machines, and they're being constantly fixed and constantly repaired back in the pit, and anything can happen. So I think that is. It's a pain in the butt for the builders because they're always like, oh, is this thing going to work again? But from a dramatic TV standpoint, it makes for interesting matches where you can have these crazy upsets and you can have these newcomers kick everyone's butt and et cetera, et cetera. Well, it's not just the engineering failures too. It's also the engineering prowess of the bot builders. I mean, someone can come up with a better idea. Someone can come up with a new way to engineer something that hasn't been thought of and, vex the whole crowd. So it's interesting. It's a cool sport. It's not like you can train your physical body to a certain level and then you're doing the same stuff again. These things are constantly evolving and constantly changing. And there's this randomness to it that I think makes it interesting. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great TV, is what I consider it, and I know that it's authentic, it's real, it's not cheapened by any kind of gimmicks other than maybe costumes that some of the teams wear to the box, but that's the extent of it. What you see in there is real, and it's such a great thing for the whole family, which was another point of emphasis all season long, was that you're not worried about the language or what you would see if you were to watch a boxing or a UFC fight or the kind of content from wrestling. And it's that perfect fit of action and everything without the human element of destroying each other and breaking bones. So I think that's something that is catching on as well with families. What would you like to see from a sports standpoint, I guess, if you want to call it that, with BattleBots moving forward? Is it something that you would like to become, I guess maybe the term is more mainstream and recognized with other sports, or do you like it where it is in its own kind of little world?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a little of both is my lame answer. I mean, I definitely want it to become more mainstream because that'll help it to keep around longer. We're always on this, like, are they going to renew us? Are we going to get canceled again? We've been on 3 networks now. And being more mainstream, of course, will solidify us with a network, and we'll be on and we'll be reliable, all those kinds of things. However, I like us being this sort of, punk upstart, weird show that has, this certain, loyal fan following. I don't know. I just a little bit of both, really.
All right, and I know that you've had a lot of them since 1999, but this one being a longer season, the first of a new format that we hope sticks around because it was very well received. But did you have a favorite moment, be it a single moment in a fight, an outcome, a fight in particular, or just anything really that you look back and be like, that is how I would say, ask me to sum up the season 3 in one image or moment, and it was that.
Yeah, no, for me, it's like, I take off my official BattleBots hat and I just put on my fan hat, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a fan of Bronco, right? It's not a spinner. He's perfected the lifter. It's not, you can't even call it a lifter. It's a launcher.
Yep.
Xander and Reason have made that thing just sing, and it's awesome. And when it goes into the arena, I'm just like, oh, yes. And it delivers. It's just like popping saw blades, 12 feet in the air. It's popping duck up and over out of the arena. Who else did it pop out of the arena?
Was it Witch Doctor?
A Lockjaw or something? Anyway, it's just like, it's so amazing. And I was just like, and they didn't win. okay, but I have to put my BattleBots hat on and just like, it's cool. We'll just go on to the next fight. But as a fan, I really wanted Bronco. And I hope they can pull it out one season. It was the same thing on Comedy Central. They had T-minus, and they always would just sort of get to the finals, and then Hazard would always beat everybody, including T-minus. But then one season, T-minus won, and it was just like you could see Xander and Reese go like, finally, and it was a great moment. I'm just hoping something like that will happen in the future season of BattleBots. Who knows? But that is the defining moment for me. Is all the chucking that Bronco did this season was awesome. Was amazing.
I think for me it was the cold opens. All the fun that you guys had at the beginning of the episodes really made for just kind of it wasn't. It was just different. I don't really know how to describe it, but all the jokes with Kenny and Chris and the different bots, whether it was Sharko or Bronco bucking somebody up into the trash bin in the back.
I love those. And the funny story about the Bronco, chucking Gamma 9 into the trash. That was actually Gamma 9's idea.
I read that Gamma somewhere.
9. I'm walking around the pit and Kurt comes up to me and goes, Greg, the robot's kind of trashed. We had a great time. We'll come back next year with something cooler. But this thing's trashed. Do you want Bronco to throw it in the trash can for one of those openers that you do? I'm like, yes. And I run to the writers, and I'm telling the writers, throw Gamma 9 trash can, Bronco. They're like, yes. And so they wrote up this thing with, Chris and Kenny go, take out the garbage, take out the trash. And they filmed it. It took 3 hits to get in it. It kept bouncing up the side of the trash can. But finally, on like hit number 3, they got it in there perfectly. And I was like, yes. The cold opens were fantastic. Actually, one thing I miss from Comedy Central, and one thing in our production meetings, I keep saying, the show's got to have a little bit of humor. It's got to have some humor. And everyone says that, not just me. We're all in agreement that as producers, like, the show's got to have a sense of humor. And the cold opens were it. I mean, I think they took a page out of those ESPN shows that have similar cold opens. But for me, it was sort of a harkening back to the Comedy Central skits we would do that, went a little bit too far. They went making more fun of the builders than they should have, perhaps. But I think this was the perfect balance of, opening the show with a funny, it's copying time. It's random crew person time. It was so great.
Yeah, those were all awesome, and oh man, what a great season. So yeah,
I actually have on my cell phone, if you call me, it says, I have Farouk, he says, it's cell phone answering time.
That is perfect. Well, Farouk has his own special spot in my show as well, because he's on the commercial I go to, and he's the first spot, and he did an intro for the show the first time I ever had him on. So he's
awesome. That's great.
Forever immortalized here in fan show lore. But Greg, congratulations on a successful season. I think it was definitely well done. The fight card format, just the execution of everything, making sure that the right faces and voices were back for this time. And then, of course, thank you so much for including me. It was an absolute blast, and no jinxes, but God, we really want season 4 now.
Oh yeah, and we're already getting hit up for all the new robots that want to get on to season 4, and I'm already starting to see some exciting, cool stuff from people who we've heard from, but they want to do something new, and people we haven't heard from who want to bring something no one has seen before yet. And it's very exciting. I'm getting like, this is going to be good. This has to happen. So knock on wood, no jinx, lace up the hockey skates exactly the same way. Hopefully it'll happen.
All right. Well, Greg, thank you for taking the time, and enjoy your off season, I guess, as you would refer to it. But do keep in touch and keep us posted on all the developments moving forward. But yes, Discovery and Science, if you're listening, we want season 4. BattleBots, I think, deserves that much after a successful season 3. And he is Greg Munson, the creator of BattleBots. So you take care, Greg, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you. You too. See you later.
All right. And one more time, ladies and gentlemen, a huge thank you. And really, if there was a word that could express my gratitude more than just the words thank and you, I would use them at this time. But yes, a huge thank you to Greg Munson, John Remar, Farouk, and everybody else. One, for allowing me the opportunity to be present during their tapings for their media days and to make all those connections, meet all the fantastic people, cast and crew of BattleBots, to Kenny Florian, Chris Rose, Leanne Cushing, all the guys and girls that were part of the show, either in video form or on the air here, or both. Truly an incredible experience that I will not soon forget, and can't wait to hopefully do it all again. So we want Season 4 is the hashtag that you need to use to make sure that it is not the last time that we have robot fighting time. And that is going to do it for our Wednesday edition of this episode of The Fan Show. We will be back tomorrow night, same Fan Show time, same Fan Show place, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. It will be right before Thursday Night Football kickoff. We will have a full Thursday preview of the weekend to come and a Fan versus Fan Show segment. Can I get back in the win column ever again this season, or is my one sole win going to be over Marcus Took of NFL Network? Tune in tomorrow night and find out as we make our predictions. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, best of luck to you and yours. Go Niners, and remember, of course, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.